Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. As I mentioned, this is the third series in our Lunchtime webinar series with the Gulf Coast Prairie LCC. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Cynthia Edwards, the Science Coordinator. And we've got a few folks here in the office in Lafayette today, including Bill Bardish, our coordinator as well. So if you have any hard questions, you can ask Bill. So our speaker today is Tiffany McFarland. She's going to be talking to us about the Grassland-shrubland work that was done out of the Institute of Renewable Natural Resources at Texas A&M University. Tiffany is a research associate with the Institute for Renewable Natural Resources, and she assists with ongoing studies regarding the distribution, abundance, productivity, and habitat use of the golden cheeked warbler and black-capped vireo within their breeding ranges in Texas. She also oversees the coordination of these projects and works closely with the project leaders ongoing. Before joining Texas A&M in July of 2009, Tiffany's research focused on the application of GIS and remotely sensed vegetation data to model avian breeding habitats along the southwestern riparian ecosystems. So the title of Tiffany's talk is Breaking the Trend of Species-Specific Management Within the Grassland-Shrubland Ecosystems of the Southern Great Plains. And Tiffany, I will hand it over to you.
All right, thank you so much. So today I'm presenting a project that was funded by the Gulf Coast Prairie LCC in conjunction with several other agencies. So my co-authors for this presentation are Dr. Michael Morrison with Texas A&M Wildlife and Fisheries Sciences, which is a department within the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences here at Texas A&M, Dr. James Cathy of the Texas AgriLife Extension, and Kevin Scow of the Institute of Renewable Natural Resources. So this project focused on encouraging land management practices that target benefits at not just one species, but on the whole ecosystem, so that management is beneficial to multiple species of interest at once. This project focused on the endangered black-capped vireo as a kind of main priority species. It also added 2 additional songbird species, which are the painted bunting and the Bell's vireo, that are listed as priority species for the Oaks and Prairies joint venture. And we also included them due to their association with shrublands and grasslands. And then the project also took into account 3 game species, because these represent landowner and economic interests. So these are the northern bobwhite, the Rio Grande wild turkey, and the white-tailed deer. Having healthy populations of these game species can promote some additional sources of income for landowners. And it's also important to note that the northern bobwhite and the black-capped vireo are recognized as focal species by the GCP LCC, and the bobwhite is a Tier 1 species. So aside from having wildlife and further having wildlife that can be hunted, what about other land uses? So historically, there has been the notion that having cattle on a property and thus having land for grazing makes the land incompatible for other species of wildlife. This idea has been fairly prevalent. However, this project is trying to change that notion and show that grazing cattle can be good for vireo, and it can be good for quail populations, and it can be good for and compatible with habitat for all of these other species. And in fact, implementing these compatible management practices can actually benefit the health and productivity of the cattle on a property as well. So for the first part of this project, we performed a huge literature review and compiled all the research that has been done on these subjects into a report. And this report is currently in its final stages of review. And so to put this in the context of strategic habitat conservation, the report has accomplished kind of what you see in red here. Focal species were selected and limiting factors were identified. And also the report tackled kind of what you see in orange, compiling models of habitat relationships and assessing the state of populations. What I am presenting today helps out with those orange boxes that the report started, and it also adds what you see in yellow, the development and use of decision support tools and the formulation of habitat objectives. And what we hope this will culminate in is what is in green, the designation of priority areas and the delivery of conservation actions. So IRNR, which is the Institute of Renewable Natural Resources, along with our partners, have developed a website that provides an online decision support tool. This website seeks to help conservation managers and local landowners determine how land is best managed for multiple species of their interest and where the best locations for management are located. Additionally, it also provides supplementary resources, including articles, extension publications, and insight into how to find professionals in their area who can answer any further questions that they may have. So the first part of the website that I'm going to show you is it helps interested parties determine where management practices might be best located. So when you click on the land mapping link from the home screen, you're taken to this page. And we wanted to present this mapping tool for two different audiences: resource managers who want to manage on a regional scale, which you see on the left side, and for local landowners who are interested in management on just their own property, which is on the right. And each of these links will take the user to a page that lists and gives more information about the layers that might be useful to them. So once you launch the mapping tool, you're presented with a map and a list of the different layers which are available for visualization, which you can see that list on the left. And you can zoom in and out of into and out of the map as needed. So the black outlines here are the black cat vireo recovery regions. And one of the things that the report did was to rank these regions as far as vireo status within each, threats to the vireos within each, and seeing here opportunities for conservation within each. So for this particular layer, the opportunities, we looked at the price of land and the cost associated with management based on vegetation, climate, and the presence of brown-headed cowbirds. So you can see that the green regions have the best opportunities for vireo conservation, and the orange and red have the worst. So some of the other layers that are available for helping target management on a regional scale include climate layers, ecoregions, protected lands, water, and threats, such as projected impervious surfaces, to name a few. So this layer here allows us to visualize the different land uses across a broad range, and you can easily see where the developed and agricultural areas are versus where grasslands and shrublands exist. And then if you're a landowner interested in management of your own property, there are several layers available to help make management decisions on the more local scale. So this particular one highlights ecosites that have been associated with black cat vireo presence. So ecosites are basically a land categorization that takes into account slope, climate, and mostly soil type. So if a landowner zoomed into this area and recognized maybe that his property is situated in between these roads, he might focus management for black cat vireos in these areas and then manage the rest of it, the other portions, more as a grassland than a shrubland. So other layers we provide include a layer showing the existing wildlife management association so that landowners can instantly see if an association exists for their area, and also the frequency of detections of some of the focal species in their area. So this layer is showing the frequency of vireo detections within a 15-mile radius over the last 15 years. And this layer uses eBird data, which is composed of citizen-submitted data of detections of specific species of birds. So basically this is asking, have vireo ever been located in this area recently or semi-recently within the past 15 years? And this might provide some insight into whether the area could ever support vireos. However, since vireos migrate, managing in places where there have not been any vireos may still draw them in, and we've seen that in some of the places that have burned, such as Possum Kingdom State Park and on the Wichita Mountains. They didn't have any vireos, or they didn't have any recently, and then it burned, and then suddenly vireos showed up. However, for turkey and quail, both of which do not fly long distances, we also have layers of this type of data, and it's particularly useful because landowners can see if turkeys and quail have even been reported in their area. So this kind of helps answer the question, if they build habitat, what are the chances that the birds will come?
Hey, this is Allison, and can I remind everybody to mute their phone? And if you could speak just a little bit slower for us with slow ears, that would be helpful.
Okay.
Thanks.
So aside from the where should we manage is the how should this management happen. So this part of the website lays out a comparison of 4 species of a person's choosing, and it compares the recommended management practices for those species. So at the top here, a user can choose 4 of our 6 focal species to compare. And as they scroll down, the recommended management practices are laid out. And as you can see, many of them are the same across multiple species. So for instance, here at the top you see what are the best practices for grazing if you wanted to manage for each of these species. As you scroll down further, you find out what to do about providing water resources. We have information regarding brush management, cowbird removal, and how to deal with exotics and game. And then for each of these little short blurbs that gives a broad description of the management, a user can click on the little question mark next to each item and can get a more detailed description, along with some citations that they can look at for even more information. So this shows the user how management practices may be the same for several of these species, or how they should vary management slightly across the property if they wanted to target different species in different areas. And then finally, the last major part of the website provides user-friendly resources and literature for all of these things that we've summarized for the report and for the website. So for each subject, we provide extension publications and scholarly articles about each with links to the PDF. And we have PDFs for most of them. For the ones that we don't, it provides a citation to where they can find it in published books. And additionally, we have a link over on the right that you see for people to find natural resource professionals in their area. So when you click on that image on the right of the screen, it takes you to a page where you can choose the county that you live in. And once you choose or click on that county, it brings up a list of all the extension agents, NRCS folks, et cetera, all the different natural resources representatives for that area, along with contact information for each. So this is an easy way for landowners to figure out who to turn to once they do have questions that they want to ask. So in summary, our goal is to encourage the management for many species at a time, rather than focusing land management on just one land use or just one species at a time. Our online decision support tool provides 3 sections: a tool to help determine where to focus management, a tool to help figure out how best to manage for the species that a person wants or is most interested in, and additional resources to put people in contact with agencies and supplementary literature for more information. So this website is in the final stages of construction and should be out and available through the Science Projects tab of the Gulf Coast Prairie LCC website soon. And additionally, we currently plan to provide all the spatial data housed on the Conservation Planning Atlas for the LCC. So with that, I will take any questions and comments. I have no idea how I'm doing on time, so I apologize if I went too fast or too slow.
Tiffany, it's Cynthia. You're good on time. Thank you. I know you have a couple of your co-authors on the phone as well. So if anyone has questions for Tiffany, we haven't received any through the chat tool, but please go ahead and ask if you have one.
Tiffany, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Matt Wagner. Could you go back to your slide on the black-cap vireos and wildlife management associations?
Stop me when you.
Right there.
Was it this slide?
No,
so
you just passed it.
Oh.
Okay, so this slide, okay, the one before it was the wildlife management associations, I guess, in green.
No. So this is. I'm sorry. I was showing one layer that you could have visualized, and then I was talking about it, and then all of the other ones that are also provided. So I'm sorry if I confused anybody.
Well, you mentioned wildlife management associations, but you have a layer that identifies where those associations are?
Yeah, so down here underneath, so this is the Dixie Ecosites layer, and then there's the wildlife tab, and we have the wildlife management associations, and it's not turned on for this particular zoomed area, but if you zoom out, it basically has polygons that cover the regions where these wildlife management associations are basically in effect. And I'm not 100% certain where that layer came from.
I think it might have come from the TPWD website, because we do have a map of those, and they're often in general areas. But that's great, because that will, for a landowner that just wants to get started, this is a great way for them to even find out about these associations, which are really a good way for especially a newer landowner to get involved in management. So that's great that y'all have integrated that.
And to expound on that, if you did have that layer visualized, and Kevin can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you can choose this little information tab and then click on any of these. Like if these were the wildlife management associations instead of ecosites, you could click on one and identify which wildlife management association it is, and perhaps even find out it would be any of the information included in that shapefile that TPWD has posted on their website. So anything in the attribute table would come up, and they could see what the name of it is or potentially who to contact.
So you haven't made this available to the public yet?
The website has not launched yet, no.
And so when it does, you'll have a way to measure use, I mean, how many hits or whatever?
I believe so. Kevin, is that true?
Yes, I was going to answer a few questions here. Hey, Matt, it's Kevin in College Station.
Hi.
To go back originally, yes, those wildlife management associations are from the TPWD website, and Tiffany was also correct. When you will have if a landowner was using the tool, and yes, they are the big, broad, kind of co-op type management associations. When they click on the identify, it'll give the name, and it'll also have a link back to the TPWD website, to the your wildlife management association stuff, so they can see contact information and that sort of thing.
That's good, and we need to make sure we got it updated on our end, and that's something that we've got to constantly be vigilant about. But
sure.
But that's
good.
But
it's out there to, like you said, so they can know that at least their neighbors are participating as well.
And this might also be something for the landowner that wants to get their property tax valuation through wildlife management, and they often have smaller acreage, less than 100 acres. This might be a way to direct those landowners to get the information, to start formulating their own outline of a plan that we could ultimately look at, our biologists that are out there in those local areas, but at least the landowner will be somewhat familiar with the practices before they even, contact their local biologist who's running around trying to service lots of landowners. This could actually maybe speed up the process. It could increase the number of landowners, but if there's a way to link this to the wildlife management plan, then they could, maybe do the plan themselves that we could review later.
And I can stick, if this is kind of what you're getting at, Matt, in the information when you click on some of these layers, we can have links. Would it be appropriate or desirable to stick a link in there as well to point them to the wildlife management plan?
Well, I think
information on your website.
Just having that blank form, which is standard form. Now, this is just for parks and wildlife management plans. That it just shows them all the information that's needed in a plan, and they have the option of whether they want to start filling that out or not. But at least they're familiar with the kinds of things that we're looking for.
Sure.
So, Matt, this is Todd. I think that's a great idea, and there's two things that they could easily add to the website that wouldn't take much work is the links to the TPWD wildlife management plans, but also there's lots of really great online resources for the 1D1 open space wildlife management valuations that we could point them to as well.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, suggestions?
Yeah, I have a question. This is Nicholas Enright, and I was wondering if the website, if there's a maintenance cycle plan for the website. mainly with the contacts, as a contact updates, is that just going to be something that's going to have to be checked and updated? And then other things like services, are you using services that if TPWD updates their service, it's automatically updated, or is it just a shapefile that's downloaded and would need to be updated manually?
Kevin, I'm going to...
Yes, I'll field that one. As of right now, the information that's being pulled into this web mapping application is coming off of our servers here at the Institute, and no, it is not dynamically linked to, say, TPWD or any of the other sources of that data. But that data we typically look at, I wouldn't say very often, but as we work with it, we update it as we see changes. So as far as keeping the data up to date, it's linked to the data that we house here and work with a lot. So if we do notice changes, we'll update it then. As far as the service, Todd, I'm not sure on that one. As far as the website maintenance, that would be more of a Ross question. So I don't know if you can answer.
Yeah, that's one of the difficulties with putting content out on the web is how do you keep it fresh and up to date. But Nicholas, related to your question about using tying to TPWD map services, I think that's a great idea, and if they've got any published ones out there, I think it'd be pretty easy to tie into those.
Yeah, maybe worth giving Dwayne a contact.
Right, and as we move forward, one of the things we should get in place is a maintenance cycle for websites. That's dealing with that on multiple websites right now. So, any other questions for Tiffany today or Kevin? Okay, well, thank you everyone again for attending and Tiffany for presenting. We will get the recording for this up on the website as soon as we can, and I hope that all of you agree that this is a great step forward in finding some more compatible uses between things like ranching and wildlife habitat management. So thank you all again very much. Our next lunchtime webinar will be on Wednesday, October 1st, and we're looking at having the Model Duck Decision Support Tool presented that day by Dr. Bart Ballard out of Texas A&M Kingsville. So stay tuned for more information on that. We'll get out the invitations and put the information up on our new website as soon as we can. Thanks, everyone, and have a great afternoon.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.